When you think of a farm, you might picture happily grazing cows and luscious green corn. But the reality of modern farming is very different. The majority of farmland is controlled by corporations, and small farms are rapidly disappearing. Along with them disappears the health of our food, our environment, and our local economies.
If you look at North Carolina now as compared to 20 years ago, it's a much different state.
By saying farming is difficult no matter what kind of farming you're doing. Nothing about farming that lends itself to being managed as a sort of in a commercial fashion, that over time is just not sustainable. But the nature of the food distribution in this country and the nature, our sort of whole relationship with food has been altered that to such an extent that that's the only way that kind of a lot of people can even think about trying to farm.
We in agriculture are less than 2% of the population in production agriculture, so we've got a huge customer base, the 98%, that they forget about the value of agriculture and agribusiness, and as we have generations move further away from the farm, then that is an even harder educational process to go through.
I mean, if we keep going in the direction that we're going with those scale of farms, there will come a point where we won't be able to grow stuff anymore. Certainly not in the way we're doing it now. And you know, we think there was a crisis a couple of years ago with the financial markets and all that. Just wait till we can't grow food.
Probably the biggest thing that we have faced in the last several years in North Carolina has been the disappearance of farmland. We've moved 1 million people into North Carolina between the year 2000 and the year 2010, and actually led the nation in 97 and 2007, 2008 in the disappearance of farms.
Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. They took all the trees, put them in a tree museum, and they charged the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've...
In actuality, North Carolina is a small farm state. The majority of our farmers are small farmers, and to a local community, the value, there's so many values that a farm offers, and people think about that food value, but it goes much beyond that. If you think about it, in North Carolina, probably 90% of the wildlife habitat in North Carolina is on farms, privately held farms. The environmental benefits of a farm is a place where water can percolate through the soil, be cleansed, and provide well water, aquifers, recharge aquifers. It's also a place that, you know, we have trees growing and green growing crops, so it's a green place where you have the recharging of oxygen. You know, these are benefits of a farm that people forget about. You know, they don't think about the intrinsic value of a farm.
The food that comes that is accessible to a majority of people in this country is inferior in terms of its nutritive value, in terms of its likelihood that it was raised with poisons of some sort or another. You know, we have jumped through great hoops to make sure that people could buy cheap food, and you get what you pay for.
Even on the wrong days, I could dream to play.
But we've had a lot of development around us, and the worst thing as far as agriculture around here has been development of the one house on like 10 acres. Because it took a lot of land out for productivity. It's fine for somebody to have horses and things like that, but you take a 100-acre field and you divide it into 10 lots, that's a lot of production. Just took out of, and nothing against people having horses and things like that and having their own animals running around, but it still took it out of the food production for the rest of the country kind of thing. And we have a lot of that around here, and that's what most of my neighbors are in that kind of a boat. One of our big things now is going to be keeping farmers in business, because there's not much money in it. It's not much money at all. I came back to the farm here 5 years ago, and everything I've got is gone right back into it. I still have another job, and that's where my income's at. It's a part-time job, and my wife works full-time, but the farm right now is not paying me anything. Can you go out and spend $800,000 and make a farm pay? You better be real good. If we lose farmland, but if we have farmers that are making money, then we'd have the farmland.
Typically, the price that you see in a grocery store, the farmer will probably see somewhere around a third of that. So that's just not an easy way to make a living. And you could argue, if a consumer is paying $5 for something that a farmer grew, that certainly the farmer probably ought to see the majority of of that money, since that was where all the kind of value was created in terms of growing it. Providing distribution is not an especially difficult thing to do, but somehow, all the middlemen involved in our food distribution system have made it difficult for farmers to make a living.
But most people that have farms inherited them. You can't afford to go out and buy $10,000 an acre of land and farm it. There's no way that you can make it work. So if you didn't inherit it, there are very few options for people to get into the agriculture business. When a farm is in a family for 9 or 10 generations, you just hate to see houses planted on top of it.
You take a farm and develop it. When a farm is an operating business, it takes about 34 cents of a tax dollar for the infrastructure cost for a farm. When you develop it, that price goes to $1.15 for every dollar paid in. Agriculture and agribusiness is the #1 industry in North Carolina, and is actually the economic engine that drives rural North Carolina. So without the farms, we'd be talking about an economy that would lose $74 billion in economic impact. So we've got to, as a state, make preparations to preserve farms, get young people back to the farm by creating economic opportunities on the farm. If we don't, then we're not going to have that sustainable agriculture that we're all looking for. I think the future is very, very bright if we as a state manage the resources that we're going to have for agriculture.
I don't think people have moved away from farming because of the nature of farming. I think that they've moved away from it because we've generally moved away from the earth, period. We're so disassociated with the earth and what sustains us and what sustains everything. I heard on the radio the other day some really alarming statistic that the average American kid spends 6 minutes outside each day. A lot of people make the point of how relatively expensive good food is, organic or biodynamic food is, compared to other food, and the facts are that if you look at all of the costs associated with growing conventional food, and if you could somehow price in damage to the environment, the cost in fuel, the cost in health, all of that stuff, there's no way that conventionally grown food would be cheaper. So, when those things change, and they are sort of slowly changing, there's an enormous movement in the country that's just kind of recognizing the value of local, the value of fresh, the true costs associated with, a bag of carrots that drives 3,000 miles to get to the grocery store.
It's just what cheap food has kind of done, and unfortunately the value of food has been outpaced by the value of the cost of equipment, labor, things like that. Mm-hmm. But we got the other hand is, all right, we need to keep food affordable for people. So what do you do?
Yeah.
And right now we're in a society that will pay a lot of money for a good camera or a good phone, I guess. But we still want to pay as little as we can for food. But it's a mindset that we've been used to for a long time, and it's not a bad thing, but we've got to get that changed. We got to put value on our food and maybe less value on something like our clothes we wear or